Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm going to give people a few more minutes to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to be hosting a session with our partners at Google, focused on one of the biggest evolutions we've seen in the LSA Service Ads product, the shift from the Google Screen badge to the Google Verified badge. This change represents a major step forward in how firms build trust online, connect with clients, and ultimately drive more qualified leads in 2026 and beyond. Today's conversation will walk through what's changing, what it means for your firm, and how Scorpion and Google are partnering to help advertisers stay ahead and get the most out of their LSA investment. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to introduce ourselves. My name is Caitlin DePello. I'm a lead local service ads product. I lead the local services ad product at Scorpion. My team has worked closely with Google for over 6 years now to help thousands of local businesses launch, optimize, and scale their LSA campaigns. Everything from onboarding and lead automation to new feature adoption and performance strategy. And joining me today is Elise Goldman from Google's local service ads team, who partners directly with agencies just like Scorpion to roll out new programs, betas, and updates, etc. So Elise, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. As Caitlin said, Elise Goldman. I'm a global product lead here at Google. I've been working on the LSA team since 2017, so really been around for its whole evolution. My role as a global product lead is twofold. One, I drive commercialization and activation for LSA, working through partners like Scorpion and other agencies and large enterprises. And then since I have those connections with large partners and advertisers such as yourselves, I'm also really pivotal in shaping their roadmap and hearing feedback directly from Scorpion and others on what's working, what's not working, and how do we continue to evolve LSA to both support consumers who come to Google every day to find local businesses and firms like yourself who are trying to get more leads and connect with people from your community.
Perfect. Thank you, Elise. So here's a quick look at what we're going to be covering today. We'll start with a brief overview of LSAs and how they've evolved, then dive into the key verification changes, what's new and what it means for your firm. From there, we will share ways to improve your rank and then talk about agency LSA management and wrap up with a live Q&A. Feel free to drop questions in the Q&A box anytime. Throughout the presentation. If they tie into what we're discussing, Elise and I may jump in and answer them live. Just make sure to post your questions in the Q&A and not the chat. All right, perfect. So let's take a quick look at how far LSAs have come. LSAs launched in 2015 as a pretty simple product, but every year Google has added new rules, new features, and new ranking factors. In 2019, Scorpion began supporting LSAs at scale, and by 2020, they expanded to lawyers, and that's when many of you entered the mix. Since then, updates have come pretty quickly. Message leads began to impact ranking in 2023. Lead disputes were deprecated and replaced by a new crediting system in 2024, along with the introduction of identity verification, or IDV for short, to the verification requirements. And now, in 2025, Google has officially deprecated the original Google Screen badge and replaced it with the Google Verified badge. Also, just this week, you might have received an email from Google about this. There has been meaningful changes to the LSA message leads product around pricing and placement. So the big takeaway to this is that LSAs might look straightforward, but they're constantly evolving. The requirements, the ranking system, and even the lead types change year after year. And that's why having experts who stay on top of every update makes such a huge difference, especially in legal, where standards are higher and the details really matter. Just as a quick refresher to what local services ads are, or LSAs for short, they're the ads you see at the top of the Google search when looking for a local provider. They operate on a pay-per-lead model, feature verified local firms, and get premium placement above traditional search ads and organic results. So when someone searches for something like family lawyer near me, these are the firms that show up first. I want to jump into some high-level data points that we see at Scorpion. So across Scorpion, LSAs continue to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest, performing channels we run for our legal clients. On average, LSAs deliver about a 42% lower cost per lead and a 31% lower cost per consultation compared to traditional search advertising. That level of efficiency is a big part of why firms see such a strong return on advertising spend from LSA. We're also seeing LSAs take up a larger share of Scorpion's overall strategy. As of last month, LSAs now account for nearly 30% of all ad spend for legal clients, and that share has grown over about 5% year over year and continues to grow exponentially every single month. So when you combine the lower costs, the higher lead quality, and the growing investment, the story is pretty clear. LSAs consistently outperform every other channel in both efficiency and return on advertising spend. So with that performance in mind, the next big piece to LSAs is understanding the recent verification changes, because the onboarding process and the verification process is such an important factor when it comes to local services ads. So I'm going to hand it off to Elise to go through what has shifted and how it affects your firm.
Thanks, Caitlin. LSA is a marketplace, and really we have two main goals as a product. The first is to help connect consumers to trustworthy and verified businesses, or in your case, law firms near them, or law firms willing to serve them where they are. And then second is helping you as a business stand out and get more leads and new clients to grow your business. Critical to both of this is verification. So verification is a key piece to LSAs and will continue to be a key differentiator and piece of the product, but it will evolve over time as we learn what users expect and we learn what we need to keep people safe. The first change here is the unified badge. We did a lot of research on this topic with focus groups as well as studying behavior on Google search. And what we learned was a few things. The first was that users or consumers found the badge a bit confusing. We had Google Screen badges for law firms and other professional services. We had the Google Guarantee badge if you were a home service provider, and we even had a different badge for healthcare advertisers. So across the board, we wanted to consolidate and unify under one badge, which is now the Google Verified badge. Part of this testing also looked at where the badge helped consumers. And before, we had the badge showing on the Google search page, we had it showing on the profile and throughout, and the multiple placements also was a bit confusing. So when we removed the badge placement from the Google search results page, we saw an increase in user engagement, which ultimately translates to more people engaging and calling and interacting with your business. While we saw an increase in engagement from the search page, when we added the badge to your profile, as you could see in this screenshot here with Shapiro Law, the verified badge, this really helped convey the message of this business has been verified, along with what type of verification has been completed. Like you could see here referencing the license check. So we know keeping these integrity signals on different services are really important, and we will continue to iterate and evolve as we learn what ultimately helps consumers and helps you get more leads. The second change, which started rolling out about a year ago and was staggered based on what state your firm is in up until a few months ago, is identity verification. This step was introduced to increase trust and reduce fraud and misrepresentation. What we want to do is making sure whoever is creating the ad, if they say that they are Caitlin DePello, licensed bar in California, that Caitlin, who's running this LSA, who has access to the LSA, is authorizing it. So by running an identity verification and making Caitlin upload her driver's license and prove she is Caitlin, it helps tie back who's managing the ad to whose license is being reviewed to avoid misrepresentation and ultimately protecting you. I know for those who have been on for a while, this was a new step that we introduced. So thank you for working with Scorpion or for doing this on your own. Again, the goal of it is to help you and protect our consumers. The third change, which we rolled out within the past year, is around Google Business Profile affiliation. Similar to IDV, we want to make sure that the person who is running the LSA ad has the rights and is affiliated with the Google Business Profile that they are referencing. So the relationship between Google Business Profiles, GBP, or GMB for those who have been in the Google system for a while is really strong and growing. I would say a few things. Because LSAs now require a GBP, making sure that you have one, you maintain your GBP, and maintain the similar information across both is important. So if you ever change the name of your law firm or you move to a new location or change offices, make sure you're updating both your LSA and your Google Business Profile to make sure the name and address on both of those stay in sync. And again, Scorpion is aware of all these policies, so working with them helps make sure that we don't lose this affiliation or this link between your LSA and your GBP. So just, to recap, these three changes around the new badge, identity verification, and the Google Business Profile requirement are all like new steps to really help with our commitment to strong advertiser quality and improving consumer trust, which ultimately improves your ROI by driving high quality leads.
Thank you, Elise. Next, we're going to jump into how can you actually improve your rank? What are some levers that you can pull to have a positive impact on your LSA campaign's ranking? So when we talk about improving LSA rank, these are the 4 key levers Scorpion focuses on. First, profile quality, then ways to reach you, badge eligibility, and lastly, your coverage. So at its core, rank is your likelihood of earning a lead. The higher you rank, the more often your ad is shown, and the more likely a potential client is to choose your firm. It all starts with profile quality. This is everything the user sees before reaching out. Strong reviews, high quality photos, and clear callouts. These elements build trust and directly influence how competitive your profile appears against the competition. Next is responsiveness and intake. So if Google sees calls going unanswered or messages sitting without replies, visibility can drop. So quick, consistent engagement signals a better client experience to Google, and Google ends up rewarding that. We also look at feature adoption. You want to be opting into anything and everything Google allows you to do. So message leads, booking, direct business search, etc. You want to make sure that you're fully opt-in across the board. Opting into these features expands the way that clients can reach you. And actually recently, we pulled data actually this month, and we've seen a meaningful lift in performance for firms using the booking feature compared to those that aren't. So if you're able to enable it, we absolutely recommend that you do. The next is badge eligibility. This is very important as well. If your profile is not verified or has policy issues, then your ad isn't even eligible to serve with the badge. So it's very important to stay compliant with Google's verification requirements, which can be one of the toughest parts because, as Elise mentioned, that things are changing constantly. New verification items are being added consistently. So it's really important to stay on top of that and make sure that your profile is always compliant, as well as having, like a healthy budget and an aggressive bid to ensure you're able to show high in the results. And lastly, coverage. Your job type, service area, and targeting determines how often your ads are eligible to show in the first place. So you should always be targeting the most areas that are local to you, and we should always be turning on every single service that you offer to make sure that you're serving in all potential places. Next, I want to touch on direct business search, or DBS for short. So this was actually a little surprising to me since DBS is a newer feature from Google, and we actually just decided after some testing to turn this on as a default for all of our clients running LSAs. Across Scorpion, about 15% of all LSA leads now are coming through DBS, which makes it a meaningful part of your overall lead mix. One of the biggest advantages here is around cost. So Google does not charge for leads that come from returning customers. And right now, about 62% of all of the DBS leads that are coming through our systems are free because they're coming from returned customers. So not only are you capturing high intent users, but many of these leads come in at no additional cost. So enabling DBS also expands your visibility, which is really important based off of coverage. And it gives you more coverage and more chances to appear in front of people who are searching specifically for your firm by name. And importantly, it allows you to outrank competitor campaigns that might be targeting your branded terms throughout traditional search. So when we talk about maximizing reach, efficiency, and protecting your brand, DBS plays a very strategic role in strengthening your overall LSA performance and your performance on Google. As you can see in the screenshot, Lance Kennedy Law has their LSA, and they're taking up basically the entire fold for mobile. So it's very important.
Hey, Caitlin, I wanted to
Yeah,
add a few things, if you don't
yeah,
mind, and going back just to
of
call
course.
out.
Yeah.
Caitlin mentioned that we only charge from new users and not from returning. We get a lot of questions on what does this mean? So as you can see in this screenshot, when someone engages in a message, we ask the question, are you returning? If they say no first time, we're charged. If they say yes, returning customer, it's not charged. Same thing if you were to make a phone call. There's an IVR that says push 1 if you're new, 2 if you're existing, or the flip. I honestly can't remember. And then we only charge you if they selected new. I will say that consumers sometimes push the wrong thing. That is just kind of the way it works. But our goal is to only charge you when a user says that they are new. I want to call out a few other things. On the screenshot, you also see website. So website is displayed within the direct business search ad unit, and we do not charge for clicks to the website. So again, by having this enabled, you're showing up at the top of search. We're sending you free clicks to your website. We're only charging you for new customers. And in the case of Scorpion, that's what, like less than half of them. And you're defending your spot on Google. We do not allow competitors to conquest on the LSA ad. So you'll never see another LSA ad showing for your exact business name search. So it's really a great way to get the visibility, generate more leads, and make sure when a consumer is looking for you, they find you.
Perfect. Thank you, Elise. Next, we're going to talk about message leads. So it's very, very important to be engaging with your message leads. As I mentioned earlier, having message leads on is a ranking factor, but it's not just about having them on. You also need to be responding quickly and providing a positive experience to potential clients. So when we're looking at message leads, they make up a smaller share of LSA volume. Roughly about 10% of LSA leads are message leads. But just because it's a smaller amount doesn't mean that they're not important. Responding to them quickly is absolutely critical. Google tracks how fast and how often firms respond. And in September, across Scorpion, 57% of our clients did not answer a message lead. They just went unanswered, which is a major missed opportunity. And when those leads sit untouched, Google sees that as a poor user experience and adjusts visibility and rank accordingly. On top of that, Google now places your response time directly in your ads. So when a potential client sees a firm that responds typically in a few minutes versus one that takes over a day, the firm that is responding in a few minutes is the more attractive choice. And as if I was the customer, I would choose to message that firm first. So while message leads may not be the largest lead channel, they carry a real weight. And alongside message leads, Google also evaluates how well your firm handles phone calls. And this is an area where responsiveness has a direct impact and effect on your ranking. Google looks at this in a very black and white way. How many calls did your firm receive, and how many of those calls actually connected to a real person? So every missed call, every voicemail, and every caller who gets stuck on a long IBR is counted as a poor experience, and that can lower your visibility in LSAs. The better your connection rate, the stronger your ranking signals become, and the more consistently your ads show. Another important piece of LSA performance is how you rate and categorize your leads. Google relies heavily on this feedback to refine their algorithm. So essentially learning which types of leads you want more of and which ones you don't is very important. And they do this through this lead feedback collection process. So you would go in, you would rate your lead as you're either very satisfied and you would tell them why, or you're very dissatisfied and you would tell them why. And Google takes that information and uses that to improve their algorithms. So the high quality feedback helps Google improve targeting and sends you better leads over time. And then the low quality feedback is telling them, hey, we don't want these types of leads, and it could also result in a bonus credit for you. We also strongly recommend marking leads as booked in your LSA profile whenever a consultation turns into a signed case. Adding those customer details like customer name, job type, service area, and job value closes the loop on the lead journey and gives Google clear signals on what successful outcomes look like. And then this is a newer feature. Google just introduced dynamic callouts. So we have the static callouts that are available to add 6 on the LSA profile, something like free consultation, open 24/7, X amount of years in business, that you can assign to your LSA profile and they would show up on your ad. But now Google is actually looking at the website that is connected to your LSA profile, scraping it, finding interesting tidbits, promotions, things that they think could make your ads stand apart from the competition, and automatically pulling that and featuring it on your LSA profile. So for example, this law firm offers free estate planning worksheets, and they have this whole area on their website with free material to help clients in any sort of estate matter. So Google saw that and was like, this is very valuable. We think that this could help the profile stand apart from the competition. Let's pull that over and feature it on their LSA profile. Another example below for Legacy One law firm, flat fee billing and create in advance is also a dynamic call out. An example of something that Google found as unique and wanted to show. Okay, next, Elise is going to jump into a few examples of new launches and experiments that Google's running to drive more conversions.
Yeah, so I know I talked about verification and our importance. The team is also really focused on improving what we would call the format and the way the ad looks on Google search and how users engage with it. Again, with the goal of how do we get more users to engage, to make calls, and to hopefully find the right type of business that they're looking to book a job with. So even if you go back to the last screen for a minute, Caitlin, you could see on that bottom, the Legacy One law firm, since he doesn't have messaging enabled, but we want to allow him to show and not look like he only has one call to action. We have the reviews call to action next to the get phone number, kind of on that bottom right, as another way of helping users click, engage, read reviews before reaching out. So the other two, I guess they were experiments, now they're actual launches that we have. On the left is requesting multiple quotes or multiple opinions, which is like a shared message lead feature. This has been launched for home services for quite a while and just recently launched to professional services, including law firms such as yourselves. You may have received an email from Google over the past week letting them know. Again, it's just another way of why messaging is more and more important as consumers or clients want to talk to multiple law firms, understand their options before choosing who to go with. On the right, what you see here is what we call our carousel. So in the past, when you would see the LSA ad, you would see one photo, and then if you clicked in, you would see a lot of photos. We know a lot of consumers that like photos, engage with photos more. So we are doing what we call a carousel. If you click in on the photo and kind of scroll over, you could see more photos directly in that spot rather than taking you to a new page. So although these may seem like small changes, they're all just small tweaks that Google continues to make, leveraging the insights we have from your website, from your profile, new features we're adding to really help you connect with more people and get more leads. And then on these screenshots here, we're calling out promotions. So we've been testing promotions with a few beta partners, Scorpion included, over the past few months to understand if having a promotion in an ad does increase engagement and leads. So you could see kind of there the 10% off, the initial retainer is the promotion that's being advertised in this ad. So again, a benefit of working with an agency is just knowing all the latest changes in ranking, changes in verification, access to betas, and access to someone at Google who, like myself, who's deeply familiar with the product and can strategize and work with the agency to make sure they're providing you and all their clients with the best experience and the best performance and ROI on their ads. I think these are just a few more examples of, we used to only allow you to show 2 call to actions where you could just see a message and phone number. Now we allow 3. So we're helping show your booking link more prominently. So again, to Caitlin's point, a lot of lawyers today just have phone call enabled. And then we're seeing more and more enable messaging. But I would say very few have booking. So this could give you a competitive advantage if you have things that your competitors in your area aren't. So what I would really encourage is to go search, family lawyer near me or PI lawyer, pick, the firm and the area you're advertising in and see how does your ad compare to those in the auction. Do they all have message booking phone? Do none of them have it? Do you have it? How do you compete? What photos do they have? How many photos? And really think about that to inform what you need. So I kind of mentioned a little bit, but in general, I've been at Google for over 10 years, and I will say that technically anybody can run their own LSA. We make it so that you could self-serve, but what I've seen in my personal experience is that a business who's working with a premier Google agency like a Scorpion do perform better. Our ads landscape is constantly evolving, and working with an agency is like hiring an expert mechanic for your car. They know the complex engine better than you do, and meaning they could get more money, more customers for the dollar you're spending on ads. They have access to the betas, like the promotions I shared, and they could really help you manage across your LSA, your PMAX, your Google ads, and potentially outside of Google too, because I know not everyone is locked into the Google ecosystem. So it's definitely a really good thing to consider, or if you are working with an agency, they're providing you the value so that you keep growing your business.
Perfect. Thank you, Elise. Now I'm going to touch on Scorpion's product offering and what makes us different in the market. When it comes to local services ads, Scorpion combines deep industry expertise, advanced technology, and a direct partnership with Google to deliver performance that truly stands out. You get a full team of LSA specialists who handle onboarding, verification, compliance, and ongoing campaign optimization. And as a Google Premier partner, we benefit from weekly escalation meetings with our dedicated Google team, collaboration with Google's product and engineering leads, early access to new betas and features like Elise just mentioned. And we also are able to influence the shape of how LSAs evolve, specifically in the agency space. We also receive exclusive data and proactive result alerts that is not accessible publicly. For example, policy violations, verification issues, geo recommendations, we get alerted for all of this in real time, allowing us to fix challenges and optimize coverage before they impact your campaign. So while we manage every other advertising channel out there, LSAs are always prioritized in our advertising mix because they deliver the highest quality leads at the lowest cost and produce the strongest return on advertising spend. As we all know, LSA volume can be a bit volatile. It can shift. And when that does happen, Scorpion has automated systems to adjust your budget across different channels so every dollar is fully optimized. 2 product features I want to highlight are Quality AI and Convert AI. So quality AI is one of Scorpion's most unique product features. The system sends real-time lead feedback to Google on every lead that you receive. So as I mentioned earlier, it's very important to be sending and giving Google feedback to influence the algorithm and tell them about the leads that you want more of and the leads that you don't like. And we do that automatically for you in real time on every single lead. So when your lead comes in, we analyze it and say, are you satisfied with this lead? Are you not satisfied with this lead, and why? And in real time, we send that information back to Google. We also, whenever you book a lead, we will go into the portal and also do that for you, mark the lead as booked, enter your customer's details, their name, the service area, the job type, as well as the estimated job value. So instead of waiting weeks for credits to come back from Google, Scorpion has an automated refund system. So Google actually just recently changed things. It used to be a lead would come in, it would be charged, and then it would be reviewed, and then Google would decide we're either going to auto credit this or it's going to remain charged. And then after that fact, if Scorpion then is like, okay, this is a charged lead, it's very poor quality, we don't think that we should be paying for this, and we submit that feedback, we could get a bonus credit for you. And both of those credits, instead of you having to wait weeks for it to hit your bank account from Google, Scorpion gives you that money back immediately in real time to spend on the leads. So really, quality AI is allowing you to not also be negatively impacted by any bad quality leads that come in. And lastly, I want to highlight our newest LSA product feature, our Convert AI messaging assistant. Now, we spent a lot of time throughout this presentation emphasizing the importance of quality lead interaction and response time. This was identified as a major pain point back in September for the majority of Scorpion's clients because they just were not responding to the message leads they were receiving. So that's where our messaging assistant comes in. Convert AI engages every LSA lead in the moment it arrives using your brand voice, your intake flow, and your follow-up processes. And it's now complimentary for all clients running LSA message feature with Scorpion. To show how powerful this is, I just want to walk you through a real example. So this conversation happened over an hour, so I wasn't able to capture every single back and forth, but I wanted to highlight the beginning when the LSA lead came in and then the end. So you can see LSA lead came in just a few moments. Our messaging assistant started interacting with the client. They went back and forth for about an hour. And then at the end, it ended up resulting in the messaging assistant converting this into an appointment scheduled with the law firm. So it's really, really powerful stuff, really great. And we are offering this again, for all of our clients. They get this if they're running message leads with Scorpion. So just to conclude Scorpion's piece, when you work with Scorpion, you're not just running ads, you're running a smarter, more connected growth engine built in partnership with Google. We combine technology and strategy to make your investment perform at its highest level every single day. All right, so before we jump into the live Q&A, we have a poll that we would love for you to answer. If you'd like to learn more about Scorpion or get more information about working with Scorpion, please let us know. We'd love to connect with anyone who's interested. All right. Okay, so thank you for taking the time to answer the poll. We really appreciate the feedback. And with that, we're going to shift into the live Q&A. So if you have any questions, please submit them now, and Elise and I will go through them. Let's see. So there's one that says, what if the lead doesn't remember it's their first time, or if they have previously called us? I'm pretty sure that's referring to direct business search.
Yeah, it's based on what they select. So if they say that they are new, even if they're in your CRM, we treat them as new and you will be charged.
All right. Next, are users able to mark jobs as booked if they have read-only access to the LSA dashboard? No. If a user has read-only access to the LSA dashboard, they're not able to mark leads as booked or leave lead feedback. But as a part of quality AI, like I just mentioned, we do all of that for you. So you would have no reason or need to do that manually. It also, it's a big time suck to go in, and if you have hundreds of leads coming in a month, trying to go in and rate and leave feedback on every single lead, it takes a lot of time. It's usually just not efficient. So quality AI doing that for you really takes a lot off the plate. Is Google booking off prioritizing PPC in favor of LSAs? Is Google backing off? Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. Is Google backing off of prioritizing PPC in favor of LSAs?
No, I mean, all of our Google products work together. So again, working with Scorpion helps you think about how do you maximize your reach across high intent queries with LSA, other intent queries, demand gen, YouTube. So really having a full funnel marketing strategy across ads and LSA is the key to success. So definitely not backing off.
We also at Scorpion definitely recommend to have multiple channels running for your advertising. We never want to just silo your budget into one channel. We always want to have diversity among the advertising strategy and how we spend your budgets. But strategically, we do try to spend as much on LSA as possible because we see, the most positive results for your return on advertising investment. Okay, next question. What section of our LSA profile can we manage callouts, or is this automated? So there's two types of callouts. There's the static callouts in the profile. And if you go into your profile, the profile and budget section, there's a little pen at the bottom where your name is. And that produces a pop-up that has business callouts and a business bio. And that's where you would select up to 6 static callouts. And then the dynamic callouts that we spoke about are pulling in from your website, and there's no way to manually adjust that. That's all automated by Google, at least if you want to add anything to the automated portion of that.
You capture it. You just have to make sure you have a website. So if there's no
Right.
website listed in your profile, there's no way to capture information from it.
And I will say, with legal specifically, we've seen a lot of policy violations triggered by the website. And what we found on our side is, in order to get those policy violations to go away quickly, instead of doing the appeal process, you can remove your website, refresh it. The policy violation will be removed because usually it's triggered by something on Google Ads that isn't necessarily related to LSA. And if you add your website back on, it should be totally fine. But that's a little hack on how to remove a policy violation quickly. Okay, next question. So LSA doesn't remember the caller ID if they previously called. If LSA is only relying on leads answering yes or no for the first time, that may not be accurate. We could be charged for the second inquiry for the same lead. So I think this is about duplication. So for Google, a unique lead is outside of a 15-day window. So if the same caller calls you from your LSA ad within that 15-day window, you're not charged. Outside of it, you would be. At least you can provide any clarity to that if needed.
Yeah, so I think on the direct business lead, so that's someone searching directly for your business, that is when we ask you if you're new or existing, and then only charge you if you say new. For our general category lead, so if someone searches family lawyer near me, and then they engage in your ad, we use the phone number they're calling from. So if they're calling from the same number 2 or 3 times within that same 15-day window, you will not be charged for the repeat calls. However, if they call you from a different phone number, Google doesn't know that's the same person. So those calls you will be charged for. I would say feel free to go in and leave feedback and rate the feedback on those leads, but that's a really tough thing to solve for, and something that we're not able to do today.
That's also a perfect example of something that our quality AI product does automatically, is we can identify if it is a duplicate from that type, like calling from a different phone number. And then we would automatically tell Google, hey, this is a duplicate lead, this is bad quality. And then you could end up getting a credit from it.
Yeah, what I would say is in general, think about your intake process. Consumers between Uber and DoorDash and Google, they're used to now having tracking numbers. So when someone does call your business, I would make sure to say, hey, here's the phone number. If you need to call me back, call back on this number. The number you call me on was a Google tracking number. and then make sure they're saving the right number that you won't be charged for. If they go back to, let's say, that family law search a year or 2 years later, they may be in your database as like an existing client, but they were coming back to Google searching and open to anyone. So they weren't searching for your exact name. So we still treat them as a user who could have gone to any business, and kind of acts like a new acquisition, even if they may be in your system from years ago.
Perfect. Thank you, Elise. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. I'll give it a few more seconds for anyone else to submit questions, and then we will end the webinar. Just want to say thank you for everyone for taking the time to come and listen in today. A recording will be sent out tomorrow to you of the entire webinar. So if you have any questions or want to chat more about what we talked about, feel free to reach out to Scorpion as well. Oh, one more. Is there a way to see our LSA ad, badge or response time, etc.? Is there a way to see our LSA ad? Google gives us your responsiveness rating via API, and we surface that in internal reporting, but there's no way to see responsiveness in the LSA portal. And then in order to see your ad, it would need to be fully verified with budget within your ad schedule and turned on, and then you could do a search in a Google search and populate it and see it live. But there's no production environment to see what it would look like when it goes live. Okay, on that topic, how would something like that play out if a previous client was searching for a business by name and clicked on an LSA? Charged, I assume?
So if they were searching by name and they saw your law firm and they clicked on the ad, if they went to your website, there's no charge. If they place a call or make a message, we prompt them to select whether they're new or returning. If they say returning, no charge. If they say new, then we charge.
Okay. Give it a few more seconds since some last minute questions came through. All right. I think that's it. Well, thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. And like I said, you will receive a video recording of this webinar tomorrow from Scorpion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elise.
Bye.
Bye.